Hello, and welcome to Cooking with Grief, episode 16, The Anecdotes Strike Back. I'm Chris, and as ever, I'm joined on this screaming emotional rollercoaster by my trusty co-host, Chris.
Hello, that's me.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I am as well as can be in this cruel, cruel world. Which is actually pretty well.
Yeah, I don't feel like our lives are particularly cruel.
No, they're quite good, in fact.
For now.
Yeah, don't want to brag, but, still here.
It's broadly going fine,
Yeah.
I could be happier, but who couldn't?
So, on with the show. As usual, we have each brought 2 interesting tidbits to the show, along with some rambling anecdotes, and we will share them with each other for the first time live on air. Except it's not live because it's pre-recorded. But before I hand you over to Chris for his first story, fact, I don't know. I'd like to ask you a question, Chris. According to audiences, who was the least unlikable actor in the year 1994?
Well, I'm guessing this is going to dovetail neatly into our semi-regular feature, Kurt Russell Facts with Chris.
Yes. So, hint.
So I'm going to say Dennis Leary.
Swing and a miss.
Ooh, can I have another guess?
You get one more.
Was it me?
No, because you were a toddler.
But I wasn't the most unlikable toddler. Oh, okay, well, who am I to qualify that? Was it Kurt Russell?
It was! How did you guess? So, it turns out that when the studios were looking for a lead for the film Stargate, they polled audiences and basically tried to find out which actor was the least unlikable. Not the most likable, the least unlikable.
A safe bet.
And yeah, exactly. And Kurt Russell was the top of the list, so they hired him for Stargate. That was literally the casting process.
Well, congratulations to him and the film. What is it good?
Indeed.
Did it do well?
Stargate, yeah, it was a fairly big success. Spawned quite a few spin-off series on TV, although Kurt Russell and, the entire original cast had nothing to do with them. Yeah, it's been on TV for spun 20 years worth of TV shows.
Well, congratulations all round.
Well, that's our semi-regular feature out the way, so
thank God.
On with the show.
Chris, have you ever made a big romantic gesture only to have it go terribly wrong?
No. I'll leave it to your imagination as to whether or not that's because I'm really successful at it or I'm just not romantic at all.
I don't know, in your own way, you must be. Maybe this isn't the right podcast to delve into what ways you're romantic. But... So there's a new Spider-Man video game. Hear me out. This is getting back to romantic gestures. Now, a guy got in touch with the game developers and asked them to include a small Easter egg within the game, a little sort of hidden cultural reference or whatever, that would allow him to propose to his girlfriend. And so the game developers agreed, and so in the game, on a billboard outside a cinema within the game, it reads, "Madison, will you marry me?" The only slight downside to this plan is that 3 days before the game's release, the Madison in question left.
If anything, though, at least his relationship's memorialised forever, in a way. Tragic, horrible
in a way.
A tragic, heartbreaking, constant reminder of how close it could have been.
Yeah, the way that cemeteries are fun reminders of past times, the graveyard of all that we once dreamed of.
I feel his next request, though, will be something like for God of War or Batman or some other violent game is a very weak enemy that just gets their head smashed in repeatedly.
Oh, that would be therapeutic, though. I think that's definitely an avenue for, once VR technology gets good enough.
Well, that's the terrifying thing about VR is, eventually, if you get to photorealism, and especially if you get to, really good AI, because at the moment, most games are some degree of violence. It's really weird. We've managed to make, pretty realistic worlds in our video games, and yet most of the time we turn it into violence. But, yeah, would you really want to sit in a room with some guy who spends his weekends playing photorealistic shooter games or something, being like, that guy knows how it feels to kill somebody?
Well, I've tried VR at its sort of nascent stages, I guess, at this point.
At the moment it's not. But when you reach...
Yeah, if it's indistinguishable from real life, then there is something psychologically. Well, it's like, have you heard about deep fakes?
Oh, yeah.
Photo modeling, usually female celebrities and actresses, face onto porn films or whatever. It's like, well, first of all, it's a gross invasion of someone's privacy, I guess, their identity. And also, like, is there not enough porn that you can find, sort of consenting people to do that if porn's your, bag, I guess. But if you take that sort of technology in a different route, and it's like, imagine if you could map your, like, if you could take your manager's Facebook profile and then map that onto a body that you could then beat round with a tire iron to get off the frustration of a awful day at work. There's some sort of really sinister applications of, like, beside, like, sort of stealing someone's identity in a virtual world, I guess.
Yeah, no, it gets really like crazy implications. Also, though, I reckon that photorealistic, super AI VR, or basically like the holodeck from Star Trek, anything along those lines will basically be the end of humanity, because all anybody will do is earn enough money. It's a bit like Ready Player One, actually. Probably haven't seen that, have you?
No, of course not.
But yeah, essentially, I mean, imagine they don't really delve into this in Ready Player One, which, well, I'd say it's disappointing. That's because it's a whimsical Steven Spielberg film rather than like a dark, like, introspective on the virtual world. But yeah, I mean, imagine a world where, like, you can basically make all your dreams come true.
The inherent problem with real life is that it takes time to do anything. And if you can enter a world where everything is readily available, sex, money, drugs.
Exactly. What people are going to do is, like, hook themselves up to, like, the Scarlett Johansson experience, and then they're just going to find a load of withered husks. Future archaeologists will just walk around, if there are any, probably alien explorers, because humanity will die out, and just find half the population, the male population, just with VR headsets and their dick in their skeletonized hands. And then be like, what happened here?
Interesting that the penis survived the ravages of time.
I'm not a biologist. I don't know which bits get left.
Well, the bones, and I hate to break it to you, but there ain't a bone in there.
Bone in the boner.
Unless you're a polar bear, they do have a bone in the penis.
So they find all the skeletonized polar bears with the dick in their paws.
With just a loop of a sort of, a Jennifer Lawrence mapped polar bear.
Yeah, see? The implications
I don't know what,
are staggering.
We are the prophets of the time. If you see a polar bear with a VR set, watch out. I mean, if you see a polar bear anyway, watch out, because of climate change, they're going to be fairly hungry.
They are 800-pound apex predators. You should probably be careful at the best of times.
And if it's got a boner, then really watch out, because those things are durable. So that's my first topic out of the way and done with, ending on a culturally high note, as always. Chris, what have you got for your first topic?
I'm going to start off with a question, and that's, if you had essentially unlimited money and power as well, I suppose, what would you do with it?
I would spend so much money at record stores and bookshops, and I'd have a nice house, well, a nice flat with lots of bookcases. How about you? Have you got anything in mind for when you definitely win the lottery?
Oh, for me, yeah, I have grand visions that involve a blimp.
Although, having said that, there are lots of things that billionaires look at the thing and they've lost their mind. But Richard Branson's toilet on that island, does look good.
Because you know how you just generally, well, I hope I'm not weird when I say this, but you know how you just generally have your best ideas on the toilet. Imagine the ideas and the thinking you could do with that view.
Maybe I'd do it once on holiday and then, slum it with my normal talking Japanese toilet in my flat.
No, see, well, I'd get a blimp because
it's free real estate.
Well, no, it's basically, you'd see how there's all these mega yachts and super yachts and stuff now, which are basically mini cruise liners. They're sort of old hat now. I mean, every billionaire's got one. Imagine the feeling, Monaco Grand Prix, all these, like, billionaires and Russian oligarchs and, oil pipeline owners and whatnot on the yacht, and then a shadow passes over them like an Independence Day, and they look up, and it's, me in a blimp, looking down, with the best view in the house, feeling like, what like a 1930s eccentric would do. Anyway, both of these ideas have, well, especially yours, which was just incredibly dull.
Yeah, sorry. But in my defense, I am incredibly dull.
Yeah, these sort of ideas of spending money have absolutely nothing on Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman of Saudi Arabia, who is in the midst of, well, let's say he's in the midst of building, he's in the midst of paying people to build a city in the middle of the desert in Saudi Arabia, a brand new city. In theory, it's supposed to be like to get foreign investment. It's not just spending his own pocket money, you know, there's...
No, you never spend
his
your
own
money.
pocket money. I was going to say, his own pocket money also does basically include the sovereign wealth of Saudi Arabia.
Those are some big pockets.
So, yeah, exactly.
Must be wearing men's jeans.
Yeah, so he's spending some of that, and also he's trying to get like foreign investment. But essentially, they're building a brand new city out of nothing. It's called Neom. And I did watch a video, like their promotional video, that says, you know, you might look at this and think, there's nothing here. But there's actually opportunity. And
They said the same thing about centre parks.
yeah, this will be quite some centre parks, because they want it to be a like research technology hub. And the idea is they're building it out of nothing so that they're not constrained by any like previous designs.
Yeah, no Victorian plumbing.
Exactly, and none of those like windy roads that we get in England that you can't
Actually use, yeah.
Yeah. So the idea is, because they want to have like self-driving cars everywhere, robots. Essentially, they want to make New Vegas, only it's in Saudi Arabia, so there'll be like no strip clubs or casinos. But yeah, it's basically going to have like, they really want it to be like robots everywhere, solar power, wind power, like fully self-sufficient technological marvel of a city.
Do you think they'll have phone booths or post boxes?
I think not.
Not interested.
It's even going to have like its own laws. Apparently it's going to straddle Jordan and a bit of Egypt as well when it's finished. But it's going to be carved out of all three and have its own laws. So again, it's getting very New Vegas-like, because I'm incapable of seeing any news article without referencing it back to pop culture so that I can process it in my brain.
I mean, this is making my ambitions of a flat with
a bookshelf
with a few bookshelves really tame. I need to really step my billionaire game up. Is this the same guy that had built his own private island and had man-made lakes that spelled out his names big enough that you could see from space?
I have seen that.
Oh,
I have seen that. That's a different Middle Eastern billionaire.
All right, I get them so confused.
Yeah, no, this guy will be king of Saudi Arabia at some point. But here's the blurb, or a bit of the blurb for this Neom.
Hang on, is this a sales pitch?
Unrivaled.
Are we putting all the Cooking with Grief millions into this to get a square inch property?
Once again, I'm hoping that, having already done the advertising, somebody will give us the money afterwards.
Yeah, we could be dukes of bullshit. Court jesters, maybe.
Anyway, I want to give you some of this. It's some of the word is unrivaled in concept, unmatched in intelligence, and unconstrained by history. Like, it's just the idea of just being like, let's go to the middle of the desert that nobody's decided to inhabit. I don't think it's the middle of the desert. I think it's actually on the coast, but for whatever reason, no humans have inhabited here for thousands of years, and they've decided this will be perfect for sticking a few million humans.
Did they miss out the fourth one untethered to reality?
Well, when you got billions and billions and billions, you can do what you want, can't you? This also does, though, on the flip side, remind me of Akhetaten, which was a Egyptian city built in the desert in the middle of nowhere at the whims of in this case, a pharaoh. But, same idea of basically unlimited power, unlimited funds. What are you going to do? Build a city in the middle of nowhere for shits and gigs, which lasted approximately 15 years because he built it, decided that he wanted to so it was the pharaoh Akhenaten is the name of the pharaoh, Akhetaten is the name of the city, And basically, he decided that his favourite god was Aten, and that all the normal cities and whatnot didn't do him justice. So he was like, you know what, I'm going to build my own city in the middle of the desert with blackjack and hookers, but mostly temples to Aten. And then they did it, and then he died, and everyone realised that building a city in the middle of the desert was a stupid fucking idea.
I like the idea that, like in Blazing Saddles, they erected fake fronts for everything for 15 years. So then as soon as he popped his clogs, he went, right, okay, back to work.
That was a silly idea. Why did we bother? The downside to having, all these hereditary absolute monarchs and whatnot is when they have a crazy stupid idea, your choice is to either go along with it or to die gruesomely.
Yeah, because the first advisor who went, he goes to them and said, look, been thinking about it. I've got some time. I want to build my own city in the desert, and it's going to be the shining light of humanity. If your advisor goes, sir, with all due respect, you're an idiot, then that guy isn't an advisor anymore. He's a fashion accessory to a pipe.
I really want a blimp.
Well, you know what? You've got a birthday coming up at some point, and I will look at how much a blimp is and then get you a, cinema voucher.
Ooh, I do like the cinema. Oh, that's the other thing I'd do if I was a billionaire, is I'd just, whenever you want to make, you wish there were film exist.
Recast Kurt Russell in every film ever.
Kurt Russell in The Wizard of Oz as Dorothy.
That's the first one you went to. You want Kurt Russell in a little, polka dot dress or whatever she wears, skipping along.
I didn't think it through. I just thought, what would be funny?
But on instinct, on sheer gut instinct, you thought, yeah, I want Kurt Dorothy. I respect that.
I'd sit in my blimp and then I'd go, you know what? I really want a film about this. I'm going to spend shitloads of money on this, and if it flops, who cares? I'm a billionaire. I've literally earned more money and interest than I've lost on this film. I'd probably go broke pretty fast, actually, with that attitude.
Yeah, or your blimp would never get off the ground, and then you've essentially just got a warm seat.
Why would my blimp not get off the ground? They do exist.
I know they're not mythical creatures.
New technology.
I know it's not the same as going, I shall ride a minotaur. But what I mean, it's like, you might go crazy with power and build it out of gold.
Yeah, that would be foolish. Although now you've mentioned minotaurs, maybe it could put a lot of money into genetic engineering. Be like, why did you do this? I don't know.
I was bored on a Tuesday. What do you want?
You're like, you have no tangible benefit into making these half men, half bulls. They don't do anything. They have the intelligence of a bull and the strength of a man. They're pointless.
I thought you'd made a sentient minotaur and he was just screaming, why did you do this? Which is like an extra step. I say one step. It's one more box to tick on the minotaur making machine. A paperclip pops up and says, it looks like you're about to 3D print a minotaur that does not have sentience. Do you want to correct this? Yes, please, paperclip. Oh, God, I don't know anything about anything.
I don't think anybody knows the steps involved in making a minotaur.
Except Zeus.
Yeah.
And it's to get funky with a bull.
Is that what he did? He got funky with... Oh, no, he can't have got funky with a bull. Could have got funky with a cow, though. He got funky with everything. He was weird.
He was an interesting deviant of a god.
The weirdest one I never understood is that one where he seduced a woman by pretending to be a swan, which is just a really weird step to take. Being like, I literally look like a Greek god, but she won't be interested in that. I'm gonna turn myself into a swan.
But the thing is, after all the eons you've been alive, you want to set yourself a challenge. Yeah, he could come down as a god and seduce her, but imagine the bragging rights if you can seduce someone as a swan, and he's a goose, then as if that's any sillier.
Yeah, no, swans. Swans are several levels sexier than ducks and geese. You don't want to put it on too hard of a challenge.
You know what? You are right, and I don't know why, but there is something intrinsically correct about the sentence. Swans are several notches of sexy above ducks and geese. I don't know right, but everything feels right about that sentence.
And yet, so wrong.
Oh yeah, obviously the whole thing's wrong, but I do agree. You pervert.
Oh, I think on that note we've exhausted this, and I feel like you should rescue us.
Let's start off with the question, what would you do if you had lots of money?
And the answer is make a Minotaur. Alright, so having exhausted that particular mine of information and anecdote, over to you, Chris, to give us your second and final topic.
On the last episode, you told the story of the guy at Bletchley Park who found himself out of his depth but persevered and eventually managed to have the exact sort of skill set that they needed to crack the problem. Well, for my second topic, it's a story that's the sort of opposite of that of a man who went out of his way to avoid all responsibility. And it's the story of a guy called Pietro Angelario, I think, if my butchered Italian is correct, which by its nature is probably not. So, Pietro was a monk and a hermit who did the whole shunning society and living in a cave thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1292, there was no pope, which was a problem if you're a Catholic, because you need a pope. The Catholic Church had been locked in a 2-year-long leaderless papal election, and Pietro, who had learned about the religious sort of stalemate on the latest episode of the Saints and Sinners podcast, which I recommend, he wrote a letter to the cardinals, came down from his cave and posted it or whatever, and said he'd had a vision that God would soon be, really knocked off if they didn't elect a pope. So the cardinals thought, well, this guy seems keen, we'll make him pope, and he became Pope Celestine V, despite the fact he vehemently didn't want to be, even to the point where he ran away several times. They had to chase him down, catch him, bring him back, and force him to be pope. Now, if you're in a job interview and the guy you're interviewing for the job repeatedly leaps out of the window and abseils down the building to get away, it's probably a sign that he's not going to last in the job very long. And, I'm no HR department, but maybe take it as a sign that he's not the guy for you. And as a consequence of him repeatedly running away from being Pope, he lasted only 5 months in the role. And in that time, he eschewed the usual sort of Kardashian-esque levels of, the trappings of the papacy. He turned down the papal apartment and with all its soft things and comfy things, and he instead chose to sleep in, sort of drafty corridors and stuff like that because he missed being a hermit. Now, in the mere 5 months that he stuck around, he made the only papal proclamation he made was that popes should be allowed to quit whenever they want, which again, if you're in the job interview and you ask them, what one change would you make at this company to make it a more profitable thing? And he goes, I think employees should be able to quit whenever they like with absolutely no consequences. It's probably a pretty big hint that they're about to do a runner.
You'd think so.
And the other rule he made was decreeing more handjobs for hermits, but that one didn't go down so well, and it seemed to be selfish. So after the 5 months, he just ran away for good, back to his cave, and they thought, this guy clearly doesn't want to be Pope, so we'll get a new one, and they got Pope Boniface VIII, who worried that the guy would make an appearance despite all the evidence to the contrary, tracked him down, had him imprisoned, and he died in that prison.
I wonder if he enjoyed being in the prison, though, because it's probably not that comfy.
It's pretty bleak. It's pretty...
Yeah, you do have to wonder about an organisation, that's obviously trying to be one with God, and they elect one guy who just doesn't want anything to do with it, which means, in a way, probably would make him good for the job in, humble and all that. And then...
Yeah, heavy as the head.
Yeah, but your follow-up, your backup choice was a guy who's willing to imprison somebody on the off chance that they might want to take his job.
Yeah.
Which I'm pretty sure, I'm no biblical scholar, but I'm pretty sure Jesus didn't say, turn the other cheek, and
ruthlessly hunt down your enemies.
Yeah.
Your perceived enemies at that.
Yeah. Ruthlessly hunt down all those who may or may not oppose you.
Yeah, it's not the most Christian mentality to go, right, well, this guy left us in a bit of a mess. Let's kill him. Well, the guy in rags from the cave. Yeah. Let's bring the full might of the Catholic Church down upon him and imprison him. Right, okay, you're the boss, Boniface.
Yeah.
Sure.
Literally months ago, we thought that he was getting direct was in direct contact with the Lord of all creation. We should definitely attack this guy.
Yeah, but turns out we were wrong for 5 months. Who knew? I learned that there is such thing as the anti-pope, which is not the Pope's nemesis or one of DC's weaker villains. I just threw that one in for you. I thought you'd like the reference to something vaguely, modern, vaguely modern in a topic from the 13th century. I'm doing my best. But the anti-pope is there's been a fair few of them, but it's like someone who's not pope, but could be a claimant to the not the throne, but the hat, the big.
The hat.
What makes a pope a pope?
Being
The scepter.
Pope?
That helps.
No, he does have a throne though.
He does,
and the big hat and the scepter. There's a lot of gaudy trappings to popeism. Right, so since we've now got all this hypothetical billions, we've bought a bookshelf, we've bought a city in the desert, and a blimp, obviously. What do you think would be our next challenge to conquer?
Well, the big thing at the minute seems to be space-related. So I'm going to book the trend as the maverick co-billionaire with I assume we're sharing the money.
Yes.
So I'm going to go underwater, secret supervillain lair.
Oh, that's a very good idea. But no, although that is what...
Sorry, I didn't know there was a wrong answer.
No, there isn't as such, because that is a good idea, and we'll stick a pin in that for when the billions flow in. We'll make sure we get a supervillain lair. But... obviously, once you've sort of conquered the material world and whatnot, do you need to conquer death itself and the aging process? And I say this because, let's be honest, when this becomes available, it's going to be the billionaires who get dibs on it, and we'll end up with a two-tier society because the scientists have discovered that young blood can actually prevent age-related diseases. As in, if you're old and you take the blood of a younger person, it will help you live forever. This study may or may not have been sponsored by vampires.
Yes. I'm immediately sort of sceptical by the fact you said the scientists.
Oh, no, so I can be more specific if you like. It is by scientists at the University College London, so UCL, and a geneticist called Dame Linda Partridge. But basically what they did... Oh yeah, and I told you that it was definitely going to be billionaires that are going to just harvest probably poor young
the
people.
Blood of the young.
Yeah, it's been partly not funded by, but sort of fit in with another study that was being done by the guy who co-founded PayPal, looking for ways to stave off death and aging. And obviously they went with what happens if you inject an old mouse with the blood of a young one, and it turns out it makes them more cognitive function, less illnesses, all these things.
What component of the blood allows them to do that, remembering that I have very little scientific understanding? Because I always thought that aging was the cell's ability to repair itself.
Well, the one that was done by the PayPal founder, Peter Thiel, who's called his company Ambrosia, just because we really need it to be even more sinister.
Elitist,
yeah. It says they used plasma from the blood, which is the bit that just carries around all the nutrients and whatnot. Well, apparently, they already offer teenage blood to customers at a cost of £6,200 for 2.5 litres.
That's not a bad deal.
Also depends how often you need to have this. Because obviously if it's sort of, the effect tapers off, it doesn't scale like 1-to-1, then yeah, fair enough, maybe. But, that'll be that. But if they find out, that a full blood transfusion is enough to stave off like death for like 10 years or something, they're going to be a full vampire. Like, just harvesting random teenagers from wherever and just being kidnapped and taken to people's lairs. I assume all billionaires have lairs. It turns out there's quite a few startup companies getting involved in this, which seems on the one hand good, but on the other hand kind of worrying. But they believe it's a blood protein called GDF11, or 11, I don't know, is the key ingredient in blood. So, how's your GCSE biology? Was that covered?
I remember dissecting a frog.
Did you?
Outside of school. That was just extracurricular, learning, because I was very studious.
Basically, the future is billionaire vampires.
At least they're being more literal about being bloodsuckers.
Yeah, that's true.
It is troubling, though. Like you say, like we already live in a tiered society, divided by privilege and wealth and status.
Mm-hmm.
But our one great equalizer is the
looming spectre of death.
Yeah, the fatal sledgehammer of mortality. Great metal band, by the way. If you got to pick how long you lived for,
yeah,
and assuming you would age, but you'd be healthy for pretty much all of it.
But you'd still age.
You'd still age, but let's say after 70, you wouldn't physically look any different. You just, or even you can stop. You can decide when you stop physically altering.
If I could stop physically altering, I'd stop now.
Really, you think you've reached peak, or you just think it's downhill from here?
I think it's downhill. I think I've already peaked. I think I'm just on the long, slow decline now.
Well, I was going to say, how long would you want to live for? But it's much more interesting to think, when did you peak? Because I've known you from the ages of, 11 up until now. So at what point was that the best you were going to get? When was the best?
Honestly, final year of uni seemed to be the peak. Because I just, when you're in, I don't know about you, but my final year, I was busy enough that everything felt like an achievement because, you got your dissertation, you got your exams and everything. But then as soon as adult life hits you like a sledgehammer, almost akin to a sledgehammer of mortality, but not quite, you realize how much free time you had. I used to be able to wake up, go to the gym, go to uni, do my coursework and whatever, and still have a shitload of free time to play sports and all that, or watch films, or basically do follow my pursue my career while simultaneously pursuing my hobbies. And then adult life comes and it's pick one now. Alright, so that has taken us on our journey. I told you it would be an emotional roller coaster, and I'd like to say we've if anything, over-delivered on that promise.
No, I didn't even wear my seatbelt.
Did you keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times?
No, but then again, I'm a podcasting maverick.
Oh. We've mostly just talked about what we'd do if we were billionaires. It turns out, not a lot, or at least nothing compared to what real billionaires are doing. I feel like we've probably insulted some people.
But the people we've insulted are soulless husks with too much money that we aspire to be, so...
Yeah,
we're the worth of both worlds. We've got a chip in our shoulder, but we want to so badly nibble on that chip.
I feel like we should leave on that thought.
Yeah, it's as good as any. I've not got any better ones.
I don't have any thoughts at all. And on that note, it's goodbye.
And goodbye, I guess.
Or good night, good evening, good day, good morrow, good morning, good times, good vibrations.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of Cooking with Grief. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to recommend it to a friend. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email cookingwithgrief@gmail.com or follow us on Twitter. That's @cookingwithgrief. If you'd like to hear more episodes, then please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. And if you've got the time, then it'd be great if you could leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you.